Welcome to my humble little office. My name is R. Keith Andrews. I am a spiritual guide and paranormal adept. The journey continues today on August 3rd, 2021 at approximately 1:42 p.m. PST. Well, things continue to devolve in my opinion, but that's okay. I've seen this before. Like I said, I've got memories that date back way before this lifetime. Now, you don't have to believe in past life memories. Okay, many of you do. Many of you believe in a lot of things. The reality from my standpoint is simple. I'm watching people make some incredible decisions that seem to be pretty much based on, well, let's put it this way. There's a lot of talk about statistics coming out. So I'm going to just drop something in your lap that dawned on me the other day. Here's the way I have found that statistics work. Now, we're just going to use toothpaste as an example. When you watch the commercials, the commercial comes out, and I'm paraphrasing. 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest toothpaste for their customers or for their patients. Now, here's the thing. Crash course in statistics. Okay, 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Crest toothpaste. This makes 80% recommend Crest toothpaste. Of course, that's an interesting thing when you think 4 out of 5 recommend Colgate toothpaste, 4 out of 5 recommend Arm and Hammer toothpaste, etc. You can't have 80% in 3 different categories. But here's how you can have it. If 4 out of 5 dentists recommend one type of toothpaste, you're looking at 80%, unless you had to survey 100 people to find those 4. Then you take four dentists that actually said Crest toothpaste, and 1 that said no, and now you've got 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend Crest toothpaste. All of a sudden, that 80% that you were sitting at drops to 4. Okay, that's a heck of a lot different. Now, the same applies to any medication that you're talking about at all. Any medication, any statistic in the slightest. Okay. This is where you have to start thinking, what is actually being told? Is this actually a true statistic, or is it a marketing statistic? In the case of Crest toothpaste, or any toothpaste, it is marketing. Regarding any other statistic, you really have to question what is being done. Are they actually reporting an actual statistic? In my case, when I talk about the clients I've had, in excess of 80,000, when I say roughly 60 to 65% of them have been relationship based, that's because of my entire database, roughly 60-65% of everybody that I've dealt with fits in that category. It's not a question of they recommend. As a matter of fact, I keep telling people, do not take my word for what I'm saying. Do your own calculations, including statistics. Okay. Now, where it comes to how safe an area is, okay, like if you're moving into a place, same thing applies. Don't look at just the statistics that are reported. Ask where the statistics came from. What are they actually revolving around? Okay, because it's in that knowledge. Like every decision you make, yes, I will tell you, you follow your heart, but use your head to get there. And as it was put to me one day, when your heart and your head are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. Okay, so I'm a living anomaly right from the get-go. Because we can safely say most people that get diagnosed dead, that's where it ends. They died. In my case, it doesn't work out quite the same way. Okay. Which means 100% of people diagnosed as dead are not necessarily permanently dead. The fact that I'm sitting here after being diagnosed dead, after walking out of the morgue, tells you, assuming of course you believe me, which that's your choice, But given that it is a fact, then the fact that I'm outside eliminates the issue of 100% of people diagnosed dead are dead. Okay, it's like people that say everybody that drowns, they're dead. But there are staggering numbers of people that get resuscitated after drowning and live on to live very full lives. Okay, and this is why I say take a look at what you're doing. Make sure you think things through. But remember, you're the only one that can make a decision for you. Okay, even where I've got kids, and you think, well, you've got kids, you've got to make choices for them. You certainly do, but there are certain things that you cannot make the decision for them effectively. They still have to make their own decisions. They have to run into their own walls and figure out their own path. Yes, you're supposed to guide them. Absolutely. Okay. You're absolutely supposed to do that. But when I take a look at the amount of people that are throwing statistics on all sides of the board from a number of different topics and in conflict with each other, and this is why I use the commercial that talks about Crest toothpaste. Okay, because it is relatively speaking a safe point to make. Okay, there aren't that many people that are going to complain about, oh, you're making these statistics up. Well, maybe I am. Watch the commercials, because I'm just repeating what I'm seeing. This is why I say don't take my word for it. Okay, now, from my standpoint, it's pretty simple. I take a look at every statistic I see now, especially with what I've been seeing as of late, and I totally disregard them, because they no longer matter to me. If you can have 3 different toothpastes, just for example, 3 different toothpastes, all of which say 4 out of 5 dentists surveyed recommend this. Okay, it leads you to believe that they're talking about 80%. The reality is they're not. It's a marketing ploy. They are not lying. Okay, understand. They are taking 5 dentists that they chose that they surveyed. 4 that recommended Crest toothpaste. 1 that said that it wasn't a good one or it wasn't the best. By doing that, it sounds like Crest is the best on the market. And from a marketing standpoint, okay, it's an absolute gold mine. Okay, understand whatever is being sold. Whether it is a program you see on TV or on the internet that promises all kinds of outcomes. Okay, or whether it's whether it's something the private sector says or something the government says, it's the same thing. Statistics are used to manipulate perception. In my opinion, that is simply the way it is. And it works extremely well. Now, this is why I keep telling people, I am not perfect by any functional stretch. Okay, I have my shortfalls, I have my complications. So don't just take my word for it. Check your own sources. Okay, for instance, if you're taking a look at death tolls of highway accidents, I love the way it was put one day, years ago, because understanding that I play Dungeons and Dragons. Okay, and I saw this news article come out that said 25%, and I forget whether it was one state in the United States or the entire country, probably one state. But we're talking an article that came out 30, 35 years ago, maybe longer. But what it said was and I forget the exact number of suicides it caused. Okay, but actually, no, I don't. They said out of 16,000 suicides, 25% of them were playing Dungeons and Dragons. Now, if you think about that, that means 4,000 people, the people that were playing Dungeons and Dragons, apparently it increases your risk of suicide rather drastically, according to what that statistic says. But here's the funny thing. Now, I'm not, suicide is a terrible thing to start with. But here's the funny part about it. There was a guy that made a comment on it. 16,000 suicides. 25% of them were people that played Dungeons and Dragons. Sounds horrendous. But as the guy pointed out, I wonder how many of those people played chess. Okay. You think about it. I mean, at 25% committing suicide, so they played suicide. They played Dungeons and Dragons, and they committed suicide. But how many of them how many of them were playing chess? How many of them went to McDonald's every morning for breakfast? Okay, you can take any statistic at all and you can modify it to whatever you choose. It's great for marketing. And if you're doing your own research, like in my case where I look at it and go, about 65% of my clients are relationship based, about 30% are business. Okay. When you look at that, that's of my entire package. Now you just have to take my word for it, but we'll have to work with what we got because I don't have documentation for any of it. Okay, but with that in mind, I can take statistics and I can manipulate them. And just to give you the final point there, I'm about to prove to you statistically that 100% of the time, when you flip a coin, it's going to land on its edge. Okay, now, take a coin and flip it. I don't care how many times you have to flip it. Let's say you have to flip it 30,000 times to get it to land on its edge. You take that one example, you put that aside, and that is your test group. And you look at that one sample where that coin landed on its edge, and you go 100% of our sample. In 100% of our sample, the coin landed on its edge when we flipped it. Okay. Now, all of a sudden, the idea, and now, I mean, try it yourself. Flip a coin in the air. See what happens. Okay. If it lands on its edge once, after 30, 40, 50,000 times, however many times it took you to get it to do that, you take that one time that it landed on its edge. It is now 100% of your sample group landed on its edge 100% and 100% of the time. Now, this adds a whole new dimension to the idea of statistical accuracy. In that sample group, absolutely, it fits. But if you leave that blank and you just go 100% of the time, you flip a coin, it'll land on its edge. Your sample group is such that it warps the statistic in your favor. So I'm cautioning you with all statistics that you're listening to, every one of them. Really look at whether that's a statistic or a marketing thing. Okay. And just consider the size of sample they're using. Okay. Because it's that's going to help you make a rational decision. Now, like I said, when your heart and your head are in conflict, follow your heart, but use your head to get there. In this way, you can make a, so to speak, educated decision. Okay. That is just the way it is. Okay. If you don't believe me, look into it. Do your own testing. Okay. Now, I've been talking about where fear and everything else is. You know, how people can modify what they're afraid of or the way they're looking at the world. I was taught as I get older, that my eyesight would collapse as I got older, especially since I was wearing glasses. Until I figured out something rather important. The human eye, well, in all fairness, the physical eye, alters shape every time you move to adjust to where the light is coming in. Now, it's a constantly modifies itself, adjusting its focus. Okay, so, you know, if your eyes are getting tired, or if you're not thinking as clearly as you'd like to be, the eyesight will alter, it will decline. But here's the funny thing with glasses. Now, I was told that your eyes will continue to get worse, which is very accurate if you're wearing glasses. And here's why. And again, don't take my word for it. Do your own research, talk to your own professionals, find out. Okay. When I was, up until 2007, if I held my glasses right there, I could not see my glasses. Now, here's the funny thing. I now have 20/20 eyesight with regards to reading. Now, here's why glasses actually damage your eyes. And no, I'm not against glasses, obviously. They help me see. I wouldn't be driving if I didn't have them. But here's the reality. The glasses are built to modify the way that the light hits your eye. The glasses don't change shape. So when you're wearing your glasses, the light hits the lens and modifying is targeted at one spot on your eye. Net result, your eye gets used to that spot. And absolutely, it will help your eyes, it will help you see better. Problem is, the moment you take your glasses off, your eye now has to try and adjust to where the light's coming from. And that's where the problem starts. Because the eye is used to looking through one spot, that's where it's been formed to. And depending on how long you've been wearing your glasses for, it may be a little sticky. It may not have the lubrication to it to be able to change direction. Okay. However, like a rusty tap, if you spin it enough, you'll break it loose. Same with your eyes. If you move your eyes around enough, they will start to modify. They will start to adjust of their own accord. Net result, you'll see, if you're wearing glasses, you take your glasses off, your eyes are stuck in one place, and you can't see straight. I know this for an absolute fact for me. Okay, but I take my glasses off, and right off the bat, it is a little fuzzy, until I've moved around a little bit, and then I can start to see again. Okay, this is the thing ophthalmologists don't want you to know. Okay, at least it would seem that way. If they wanted your eyes to get better, my opinion is, and this is my opinion, they would actually educate the people on when to wear the glasses. In other words, as in my opinion, it's real simple. If you require glasses to see clearly, for pity's sakes, wear them while you're driving. Wear them if you're going someplace where you're going to need to read. But when you don't require things to be absolutely crystal clear, like what I do is when I don't require it, I take my glasses off and I put them aside. Usually I put them on my desk so I can find them later. Okay, primarily because my memory bites most of the time. But when you're taking a look at it, okay, the answer to that question, I keep putting them back on because I can't quite see the number down here and I need to. Well, I require to. If I don't know what the number down there is, which is the timer on this, then frankly I end up rattling on and it goes way past the half-hour mark. I don't want to do that. But where it comes to eyesight, you're told as you get older, your eyes will get worse. I didn't believe that. My eyes have been improving steadily, even after having a stroke. My eyes continued to improve. Even after getting diagnosed with type 2 diabetes, my eyesight continued to get better. Now, apparently this is confusing for the eye doctors, at least according to them. Okay, at least according to the ones that I had to deal with. For me, it made perfect sense. I'm using the eye, therefore it gets stronger. Okay, now it turns out there is also a secondary point. Like the optic nerve is where most of the information goes. But scientists have now discovered that the cerebral cortex, way back here, is also pulling in a chunk of information necessary to interpret what your eyes are seeing. With this in mind, if you're not using your brain, if you're giving in to using technology for everything, for instance, if instead of doing mathematics in your head, you're using one of these silly things, also known as a calculator. If you're not using your brain slows down. Net result, the connections start to fade. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean the ability goes away. It simply means you get rusty at it. The more you use your brain, which includes the more you listen, and where it comes to listening, people are wearing these headsets all the time. And then they wonder why they're having hearing problems as they go on. Well, again, if the sound is being directed straight into the ear, that's what you get used to. You're not used to collecting the little hinted sounds that are out and about. If you don't use the ear, it's another muscle. It also ties directly to the brain. If you desire your brain to work a little bit more efficiently, use your ears, use your eyes. Now, where it comes to watching TV, okay, or playing games on TV, Okay, on a video system or what have you. I tend to keep where possible. I keep the volume right down as low as I can get it, that I can comfortably hear it. Now, my hearing is a little bit abnormal from some people, from what I gather. Okay, but take your own look at your own hearing. Turn the volume of a TV, a radio, a music box, whatever you're using. Turn the music down as far as you can comfortably listen to it, so you're not straining to hear it. Okay, and you'll find your hearing gets better. Now, of course, the extenuating circumstance there is if you've got damage, if you've got an ear infection, if you've got wax buildup. I don't care how low you get it, you're not going to, or you're just not going to hear well. Okay, I had an infection at one point where I actually had to turn my TV up to 100 to actually hear it at all. When I got my hearing, when I got the buildup in my ear cleared out, I was able to listen to my TV at the same location, the same distance as I was having it at 100. I could turn the volume down to 6 to 10, depending. Okay, because I got the ears taken care of. The more you use your senses, the stronger they get. Okay, now, of course, there are certain things, I don't care how strong your sense gets, if you don't get taught how to identify it, you can have the best hearing in the world. If you cannot identify what one tone is to the next, it won't matter how well you hear it. You're not going to be able to differentiate it. It's kind of like, I don't care how good your eyesight is. If you're colorblind, your eyesight can be absolutely crystal clear. You're still not going to know what color you're looking at. So again, what you've been told about what has to happen as you get older. I won't say you've been, well, I just about said anyway. You've been fed misinformation that, in all fairness, the people that are telling you this information were taught the same thing. Okay, this isn't a question of anybody deliberately going out of their way to cause a problem. They are passing on the information they truly believe is real. I just happen to be a massive anomaly, it would seem. Okay, which is why I keep hearing these statistics about what's going on, who's ill with what, who has what. And I mean, one of the biggest things that I've heard recently is there are so many people claiming to have that are not clinically tested, not clinically proven by an independent, uninterested, not uninterested, but a independent person that's got no connection. Okay, that have been claiming to have multiple personalities. Okay, and the reality of it is this: multiple personality disorder is not as common as many people seem to think. However, what seems to be happening is a lot of people are using these things. They're either using multiple personality disorder or they're blaming possession from some demon or some entity. Okay, but they're using it as an excuse to be cruel, to be self-centered, to be prejudiced, whatever. Oh, it wasn't me, it was my other personality, or it wasn't me, I've got demons causing me a problem. Okay, this is what is called manipulation. Okay, it's pointing the finger someplace else. And yes, there are cases, and there are many true cases of multiple personality. Okay, it's like there are many cases of true post-traumatic stress disorder. And yet I see many people claiming to have it, and you know full well they don't have it. Okay, and here's an example of a gentleman I saw. And again, my hat's off to the military. Okay, to the people that join the military to protect their countries, to protect the people around them. But I saw one gentleman years ago. I'd never run into post-traumatic stress disorder at the time. I didn't have any clue what it was. But I tell you, I learned in a hurry. I was in a military, what they call a Kennex, which really boils down to a military store. A grocery store on the airbase. I walked in there, and somebody on the shelf over dropped a pickle jar. And the bang that went off was pretty distinctive. But the thing that caught my attention was a gentleman that was dressed in military fatigues all of a sudden hit the floor. He was talking to somebody, and all of a sudden he hit the floor, and he tried getting underneath a shelf that did not have any room. And he was just screaming at the top of his lungs that they were bombing again. And he was screaming to get to cover. Now, at the time, all I knew, I didn't know what had caused it. I just knew all of a sudden whatever that bang was set something off. Okay, now that was a clear-cut case of post-traumatic stress disorder. No warning, no ability to compensate for it. Right, so what I ended up doing, and at the time I'd have only been 11 years old-ish, and I saw this guy hit the floor, and I knew we were dealing with a panic situation, and that was all. So I went to him, and I started talking to him, just getting his attention in spite of the fact he was screaming. The adults that come along that were essentially in the same boat I was, they didn't know what was up either. Okay, so I can't blame them for not knowing what to do. I just simply waved them off to give this guy as much room as I could, until the military police showed up that were actually trained in it. And that was when after they had him contained and were taking him off, one of the MPs explained to me what he was dealing with. As it turned out, the unfortunate chap had just come back from the front lines. And a lot of his crew had been taken out by mortar fire. So, of course, when this pickle jar went off, apparently a pickle jar, and I only found this out way later, like after I saw this happen, but apparently a full glass pickle jar, hitting the floor sounds very much like a mortar fire. Okay, so, this is one of those things again. Regardless of what you're told, okay, there's a lot of people, and I'm not saying believe what I say. Like I said, do your own research. Okay, there are way too many people, in my opinion, laying claim to, oh, I've got PTSD, that's why I can't do this, or I've got a demon that's possessing me, and all sorts of things. That, combined with this statistical marketing ploy, and I call it a ploy very simply because, in my opinion, that's what virtually every statistical outlet is. I don't care whether we're talking medication, whether we're talking sales, whether we're talking product output. Okay, it's not a question of lying. It's a question of you take a sample group that fits your agenda. Okay, now when I talk about 65% of my clients have been based in relationship and 30% in business, I do have an agenda. The agenda is this: I want to know what the ratios are for me, not what they are for you. Okay, and every working psychic has their own ratios. Okay, but think things through. And the biggest message I've got for all of you is absolutely working together, we can make this a better world for everyone. We can absolutely do so. Okay, it's going to take the work of all entities in existence doing their own part, straightening the energy out in your own world. Now, with that said, give us a thumbs up, subscribe to our channel, because there's a lot more information that's out there, and we'll be dealing with a lot more as we go along. That said, I'm going to bring this to a close. We're at the half-hour mark. So, until tomorrow when we talk again, take care of yourselves and each other, and for pity's sakes, stay positive.